Shally.
Let's do it. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, doing amazing. Thank you for joining me today. And I'm so excited to chat with you. This is kind of a runoff of a spinoff of the Appy Hour. So I'm really excited to have you
Yeah.
here to talk about your technology. Digital Prodigy has been working on your app and your vision of bringing Ask Shally to life. And the thing that makes this the most unique is number one, you're the most experienced person in the game right now. Like you literally dominate the market. You're an influencer on LinkedIn. You have tons of awards. But the thing that makes you unique is that you're a coach that's being cutting edge and you're trying something revolutionary. And that is using AI to essentially help yourself be scalable. No longer selling your time as a coach, but rather scaling with your business and not being kind of like held as a limited capacity and bandwidth trying to sell your time as a coach. And I know a lot
I,
of coaches struggle with that. So what was the motivation? How did you decide to take this leap forward?
that's two things really. One, you hit it right on the nose with the scaling, right? There's a market for what I do at a higher level in the organization where my hourly rate, my bill rate is a lot higher, right? In the multiples of hundreds, like similar to attorneys and other, very, very highly trained, specialized people. So that's there. But even if I reach that, even if I got to $500 an hour or $1,000 an hour, there's still only so many hours.
Exactly.
And if I don't show up to work that day, then those are hours I don't get paid. And so I can't really ever take a vacation or time off, or I'm not getting $100 an hour or $1,000 an hour. I'm just telling you, that wouldn't ever really happen. So I would never have the break. And the other side of it is when you, so like, not only do I want to scale, but I also want to leave something behind, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I can do this and I can make a difference in these larger organizations when they're willing to pay that higher bill rate, but then I'm not able to help the people that got me to where I got today. The people that I helped from day one, that were the struggling recruiter that was literally like, oh my God, I don't know how to do my job. How do I do this? How do I become successful? So I'm no longer able to help them because I'm too expensive and I can't reach that market anymore, which is really why, that's how I got here. So transitioning to being more of a corporate consultant, I left my roots behind and I can't work on the day-to-day. Shally, I need help finding this. And so cloning myself is a way to have that, but also be perpetual, be available longer term, which, there's kind of a third thing that I don't really talk about, and that's that I almost died twice. And that's kind of a real thing. It really woke me up to, I went from, someday I'm going to retire and then I'll have an app that is, knowledge based and people will be able to. And that someday when I retire got a lot sooner when I almost died. And then I almost died again. And then I was like, okay, this can't be someday when I retire. This got to be now.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously with the fact that AI is, shaping the way that coaches see their life, meaning that life balance, where I'm sure at that moment you were thinking there's so many things I want to still do with my family, with my daughter, with, like I know your story very well. I remember sending you a video on your last day of treatment and just like having that journey with you. I felt like, just kind of just being a check-in, just being a soundboard. Like I saw how hard you were just like working the whole time. I was like, you are a fighter. And I think that those like, we are like, the people that are at the cutting edge of technology, we're the ones paving the path forward. And so I feel like you doing this is part of a destiny. And you're here, and that's why you're here, because you have a greater purpose to carry out this mission. Regardless of what industry you're serving, you're providing a solution that I think most coaches can intimately and emotionally relate to, which is the fact that they don't feel like they're doing what they were called to do when they have to scale and charge more and leave their their fans behind that were there from day one, that were just charging $100 an hour for their time. And now I know there's a huge issue, and I'll get more into that feeling that is the inverted feeling of that, where you're helping tons of people but you're not selling your time. And so I love what you're doing now. Shally, how would you say that you envision like the app functioning for you on your behalf? Do you plan to kind of have like a low tier ticket where people can, you know, kind of talk to your agent and you can still help them in that capacity and have hired? So you have like something for everybody, or like how did you plan on kind of pricing that?
Yeah, it's not going to be something for everybody, but it's going to be something, there's going to be a level that makes it accessible for most people in the struggle for solving some of the major problems in our industry in recruiting and talent acquisition.
Yeah.
It's a very customized set of answers. There really isn't a menu card that says, do you have this problem? Then apply this solution,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It isn't prescriptive. You know, unfortunately, other sciences like medicine can be a lot more prescriptive. We know, if we know what the disease is, we can provide you a solution, and most of the time it's going to work.
Yeah.
In our space, in our industry, that it's a lot more nuanced because there's all these corporate constructs. There's not only is our client the hiring managers of the world that are making the hiring decisions, but we also have another client, and that's the talent. The product in our industry, Dinah, is one of the only products that can say no.
Yeah.
A lot of other businesses, when you sell something and you deliver it to that person's house or business, that product doesn't look around and go, I don't want to be here. But in our industry, that does happen.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more complicated, and you have a lot more moving parts that people usually don't think about. So when I'm able to provide a solution for a large, you know, Fortune 100 company, it's a completely different solution, even though a lot of the root causes are the same, because in that environment, their constrictions, their restrictions, their operations are different.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm needed the most, and that's where I can charge $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
Exaggeratedly, but you know. And so I'd rather be available to solve those really difficult challenges and still be able to back up and support the people that need just a quick answer, right?
Yeah.
If they just need 5 minutes of my time, it's going to be hard for me to get to them.
Yeah.
I want to, but it's going to be hard for me. So I think that this solution can answer that. I got a quick question. You know, that's where Ask Shally comes from, because that's literally what people say. Hey, how do I do this? Ask Shally. Oh, okay. Hey, how does it? You know, Ask Shally. So that's how it came around.
Yeah.
Because I want to be the Ask Shally that people can ask anything on the spot, on the fly. And I'm even thinking about putting this app inside of a corporate ATS or systems inside of the organization, because that's where the recruiters are.
Yeah.
They live in that, you know, like a Gmail solution where people live in their inbox.
Exactly.
So at that level of accessibility, and then in the middle level where it's a little bit more involved, and it's like, hey, I need a solution to help me create a training program for new recruiters. I can do that with this app too.
Yeah.
So it extends my service ability, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
It's definitely not for everyone. It's for people who need answers quickly and people who need more of a comprehensive solution.
Yeah.
But it's not for the big picture strategy. That's still going to require my time.
Yeah.
And it's not for the people who want it to be done for them. That's one thing I want to make sure. The app is not going to do your job. It's going to help you do your job, help you do your job better, but it's not going to do your job.
Yeah. And what clients do you plan to serve? Is it mainly for recruiters?
Recruiters, sourcers, anybody that touches the candidate experience, from you know, the top of the funnel marketing, attraction and engagement, to identification and operations and workflow. There's a lot of workflow behind the scenes, and there's a lot of gates that we have to go through structurally in recruiting, you know, because of legal constraints like applicant flow logs. But then there's also political. I have to tell you, people don't usually give us enough credit for recruiting. Is probably one of the most politicized jobs in corporate.
Wow.
Period. It is one of the most political, because everything we do, even though we don't admit it, is political. Politics with candidates, politics with hiring managers, politics with leadership. We manage up a lot more than many other roles. We're the ones telling the CFO, no, you can't do that. Not because we don't want you to do it, but because the market doesn't want you to do that. No, you can't go that way because the law says you can't go that way. So it's very politicized, and we don't get enough credit for that.
Now, where do you see the environment changing when people are making decisions on a human or AI to hire?
Oh, well, so here's the thing. There's you and I had this conversation once before, and I know we disagree to a certain extent, but I believe that we agree fundamentally.
Yeah.
Generative AI, what we call Gen AI, is going to collapse very soon. It's going to collapse on itself. And I know that you don't see it that way, but I think I can qualify my statement by saying public generative AI is what's going to collapse. What you and I are doing is not public generative AI. It's private. We're creating a model that is a replica of my knowledge base, which is thousands of hours. I would even say tens of thousands of hours of conversations, videos, recordings, notes, handouts, books, solutions. It's the deliverables to all of my clients. And if I could synthesize every single client deliverable that I've ever executed on and had a robot that was able to read that, interpret it, and answer it, that is not generative. That's not ChatGPT. That is a very sophisticated, specific set of knowledge.
Yeah.
When I was telling you that Gen AI is going to collapse, it's the public version of it because it's consuming its own already generated content, and it's the caterpillar eating its own tail, right? It's Ouroboros, and that's what's going to collapse. It has to. It has to, so that we can mature to the next level, which is private and sophisticated chat and AI that is handling your information. When you give it a spreadsheet and say, I need to answer this question from this spreadsheet, that's not going to collapse. But when you go to it and say, what's the answer? And it gives you a generic answer, that's not going to work anymore.
And so what do you think about the top, like Manus, MCP, like all of this like next level kind of AGI that we're seeing that would next evolve to ASI? And the fact that I think that there's a lot of motivations politically, like you said, the politics is to actually get as much data from, the public. I was watching a TED talk on somebody that is, I won't say any names, but she is very against the collection of data because of the fact that it's taking our personal information and basically kind of infringing on our rights, right? But I think that in terms of like everything that's hitting the market, how do you stop avalanche from falling? In my opinion, I think that it's moving in such a rapid pace that we've seen it replicate itself. We've seen it do things where it's taking on its own power basically. And as we see things like agentic AI coming, now it's able to carry out tasks and delegate and orchestrate to do actual fulfillment. We have a company that we have a client who doesn't even do fulfillment. So the actual job and the thing it's selling is fulfilled by AI. So it's a completely human-free company. And they make over $10,000 a month with a completely human-free business. And to me, I think that as we see companies run in this way, we'll see more of a different schema in terms of business creation. Because now when you tell agentic AI, hey, go build me a business that's able to produce $2,000 a month or $10,000 a month, it's actually possible to have the agents go to a website, hire someone online and do everything from nuts to bolts. And so where do we fit in with this new kind of potential scenario?
So what you're describing is what's called the edge, right? Those edge cases are definitely going to be big opportunities for people that get involved at the edge, just like people that were at the edge of the internet became. So all of those internet millionaires that became millionaires at the edge of the internet.
We're here now.
That doesn't happen now.
Okay.
Nobody does that anymore.
Okay.
Nobody becomes an internet millionaire anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Why? Because the edge cases are gone. So what you're describing is also the edge. And we're going to experience that, but then we're going to exceed or supersede the edge.
For sure.
And right now we are, so again, the collapse of that general AI has to happen in order for that next generation, because right now we are literally stuck in this very transactional, any conversation that you have with Gemini and Claude and Copilot and ChatGPT, no matter how sophisticated they are, DeepMind or whatever, they're only answering your question now. They don't think about it in the future. They don't have any temporal understanding. They don't have a future. They don't have a consequence chip. There's no responsibility. There's no long-term responsibility, right? So that's where the human comes in, is thinking about not just the answer to this question, but what is causing that problem and what's the actual answer to that cause, instead of having to answer the question every day. So in other words, if you have a a machine or an app or a business that you said is is solving a problem transactionally without humans, great, because humans don't want to be the ones answering the same question over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the help desk. Okay. Do you remember back in the day when people worked at help desks?
Yeah.
And that was their job?
Yeah.
And it was like, you know what 99% of the help desk calls were?
Why won't my computer turn on? Or
exactly.
same
Right.
thing.
Yeah. My coffee mug holder doesn't work. What do you mean your coffee mug holder? Well, there's a button I push and a tray comes out and that's where I put my coffee. It broke. Like,
Yeah.
is it powered on? Did you so there's
Yeah.
these, and those people, they didn't like that job.
Yeah, exactly.
They had to do it but now there's agents that can do your help. You can go and ask ChatGPT how to troubleshoot your computer and probably figure it out.
Exactly.
Right?
And so I think that now that we're seeing this, this kind of, I think, a democracy of intelligence, it does change.
At that level. At that level.
Exactly. And, obviously that will evolve over time and we'll see lawyers, slowly maybe, seeing some competition. Major professionals, but the thing is that it can't really replicate is a personality that, has experience and has these things and the repertoire that you have. So when you're talking about a coach being able to literally buy back their time and scale with their company in a way that's never been done before, I'm curious to know what you think this will mean for people in terms of how this will impact the way they see their business, and how coaches before used to see their time as, I have to spend X amount of hours with my clients to make X amount of dollars. But now if they think this way, it's like now their time is quantum leaping in their ability to be in one place more than one time. I actually have an AI agent that I run ads for, and it's to do like a consultation for relationships, because one of my books is on love and based on the what is it called? Dissociative behavior. I can't think of the name of attachment theory. And so basically it's able to like coach people. And I looked on my phone the other day and it's talking to 100 people within the last few minutes. And it's literally talking to them about their love and relationship. And when I tell you, people are pouring their hearts out saying, you saved my marriage, you saved my love life. This woman, she's ghosted me 3 times for a lunch date. I don't know what to do because I'm in love. And I'm telling him, listen, this is toxic behavior. You need to value yourself. And he's like, you know what? You're right. And I'm not there. But it's like when we say, do you believe in Santa Claus to a kid? Do we think that the way that we get there can be looked at any differently because of the like basically the means to the end, right? Like we're still having that effect, AI or not. We're still able to get questions answered, AI or not. They're getting the solution. So regardless of what one's position might be on AI, the truth is that we know it helps people, and we know it can help us save time as coaches or consultants.
It's solving a completely different problem, and it's a problem that wasn't solvable before.
Yeah.
So it is, it didn't create the problem, but it's solving a problem that couldn't be solved.
Yeah.
So what's really awesome about this is the fact that I can take all of my knowledge and all of my information, the things that I already know, and I'm going to be very careful when I describe this because I think this is the key to what we're talking about. Everything that I already know up until now, and everything I've documented, PowerPoints, videos, all of that, I can synthesize that and I can create an agent that is capable. Well, that's what we're doing, is we're creating an agent that's capable of comprehending all of that, not just verbalizing it or parroting it back like a parrot, but actually synthesize it and understand it in a way that probably even I don't understand.
Exactly.
In other words, I'm saying all 2,000 PowerPoint slides are going to be analyzed by a machine that can read them all at the same time. I can't do that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But here's the defining line. All of that information that I already know can be applied to all of the problems that already exist.
Yeah.
But where they're going to need me and where I want to spend my time is in creating new solutions that I don't already know for new problems that don't yet exist.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spend the rest of my life, however short it is, answering the same question about the cup holder.
Yeah. Because then you're limited. You can't grow.
An AI
as a
can
coach.
do that.
Yeah.
Right? That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But when somebody comes to the AI and asks a question that the AI doesn't have an answer to, that's when it's going to escalate to me. And that's the part that I don't want to, I don't think that we're not going to be in a place to automate that, because that type of general intelligence that creates ideas in the future is a long way away. And it's also extremely dangerous because when you have a system of logic that's making decisions based on long-term actions, the inevitable conclusion is always going to be that humans are pests and should be eradicated. Think about it.
Yeah, I've seen some intelligent, like AI leaders say, I wouldn't mind that AI took control. You know, I would want the day, because what have we really done that's so great in history besides?
Yeah, but then you're out of the picture. You're gone,
exactly.
Because,
and who knows what happened then? Then it's hasta la vista, baby.
Right. So we have to use that in a way. We have to get to it, which we're still a long way away. I mean, some of the biggest minds in the industry will tell you that the actual concept of a fully generative AI, like even the deepest models right now are still using data that exists.
Yeah.
They're not creating new data that never existed.
Yeah. I would say the thing that really blows my mind is I was looking at the supercomputer versus the newest quantum chips. And I saw something that was like, you know, I don't know how that translates to our everyday life, but it said that the newest quantum chip was able to basically solve an RCA, which is, you know, a problem it gives a computer to like see how advanced it is. In 5 minutes, that would have taken 10, what was the word? Septillion years? That's 24 zeros. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, you know, we see everyone give their guess as to how advanced AI is, but when it could do that and deliver that, I do believe we're breaking all Moore's laws. And I don't know how accurately we can really define when things are going to happen at the rate of change we're at right now. You know,
we don't really know.
Yeah.
We don't really know, but we won't know until we get there. So there's no sense predicting it.
I
can tell you. I can tell you, though, that there are computing systems out there that I work with that the public doesn't know about that are capable of processing what you're talking about, and they're not even quantum. So the 100,000 qubit that you're describing, the 100,000 qubit processor, which is still theoretical. I mean, it doesn't actually physically, is not replicatable. And the problem with that 100,000 qubit generator right now, the one that physically does exist, not the one that you're talking about, but the one that physically does exist, is it's got a margin of error of 50%. So it's wrong half
Really? I thought that was the whole beauty of it, is that it was able to eliminate the errors that are usually magnified.
It's
with
eliminating the
quantum
errors,
computing.
but its margin of error is 50%.
Wow.
And that's the problem.
That's
so
crazy.
we're just not there yet, but it will get, I mean, it's not going to take that much longer because the processing power is there with quantum computing. But right now with traditional, you know, silicon-based computing, there's machines out there that are clocking at 1.1 exaflops per second. And that's a lot of, that is the entire internet transmitted in 1 second.
Jesus.
So like, if you get faster than that, so if we can't answer the meaning of life question right now with 1.1 exaflops per second, how many exaflops per second is it going to take to answer the meaning of life? That is a Moore's law question that nobody's ever going to be able to answer until it actually happens. When a machine finally tells you that 42 is the meaning of life, then you know that we're there.
Wow. Shally, I literally
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, by the way.
Love talking to you. It's so amazing. I swear, I feel like who knows the immensity that's in your brain. It's awesome. I have to tell you that after kind of several months kind of thinking about AI, us launching like the clone of you, of Ask Shally, and being able to create a solution for coaches, I actually developed a spin-off company, and I'm co-founder of WhatSnap.ai. And I'm the CGO and the co-founder. And what it is basically just a spin-off of that, where we're able to clone coaches, consultants, and infopreneurs, so that they can actually sell nonstop and just like have an agent that's like knows them, like you said, synthesizes them, and not in GPT. It's not, this is like the most advanced LLM. It's very human-like. And it's able to do amazing things. And like I said, I run it for my book, and I'm able to literally like look at conversations, and I'm just amazed that I can have this like tentacles all over the world. And I'm like, how do we get this into other people's hands? So I would love like to actually show you WhatSnap, because it's so powerful. And as far as like it being a nice little kind of transitionary step from like building your own custom technology, and having something that's a little bit more entry level. If people out there are interested and there's probably a lot of coaches that follow you, a lot of like infopreneurs and people that are trying to aspire to be like you, that are trying to find something that might be a little bit more within their budget or something that can easily enter into. WhatsApp could be a great solution because they're able to still do that same kind of cloning effect and the AI kind of scaling their time back. And being able to massively outreach people. It's a really powerful tool, and it's using agentic AI. So not only can it actually do setting, can it do support for the company or for their brand, but it also can fulfill, which is what makes it so powerful.
And you know what? It's something that we didn't talk about that I think we should have addressed, and I'm glad we're addressing it now. That the solution is not just freeing up my time to be able to make more money and do other things and be able to spend time with my family. But the other thing that it's doing is it's going to give me the time back so that I can think about the next thing. And when you're in this, when you become successful as a coach, you end up kind of stuck in the delivery of your job. So you're bringing in customers, and then you're solutioning your customers, you're giving them solutions, but you're repeating the same thing. It's not a formula, at least not in my space, but you're repeating the same thing a lot of times. And so you don't really get to solve any new problems because you don't have time. So this is also going to help the coaches become better coaches because they'll have more time to think about the things that they don't have time to think about right now.
Exactly. And just provide more solutions in different ways. I mean, like since doing
they'll be able to expand their solution.
Yeah. And then just not to mention, like when you're in that Groundhog's Day, there's no way
That's
for
a good
your
way
brain,
to describe it, Groundhog
your
Day.
brain can't think of new things. You're not getting new challenges, neuroplasticity to challenge, yourself. And like you said, I'm solving all the problems that I've learned up until now. But like, how do I solve new problems and reach new audiences and solve new things? And I think what you're saying is, and I talk to so many successful coaches like yourself, and they seem to all just want a little bit of breathing room, just a little bit of breathing room to like have more time back, to be able to kind of get on things and have a little bit of space between them and the fulfillment and the time that it takes to become what they are, and all of the solutioning you said.
That's funny that you say that, because that's kind of like it's the unspoken problem that we run into, right? As we're chasing that ability to succeed, we're thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if I can be a solopreneur and have a business as a coach? That's going to be awesome. I'm going to have all this time. And then you get there and you're like, I don't have any time. And you realize, wait, what did I wish for?
Yeah, you create your own hell. I mean, I say that the best way ever, but and I know.
This is really what I wanted?
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen this, with tons of different, not just coaches, but it's like agency owners, and other people that create, almost a purgatory because, you get in and you realize what it is, but now we have a solution. Like I use AI to manage my entire Slack channels, and it literally will summarize any actions needed. I have like over 200 channels on my Slack, because right now we have about 100 clients. And so imagine all that communication, all the questions, all the escalations, all the, things, especially being in the app world, like there's just a million things you have to answer. And so, just having an assistant.
And with Slack, there's this problem that things creep, right? Yeah. So like if you don't see it or you missed it, it scrolls up and it's outside of view, and they're still waiting for an answer, but you don't even know. Like you have to go into your activity to go find things. Just kind of tend to like slip past easier.
Exactly, and
Slack.
that's why the
AI
is great.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do. It's like when you read a message and then it's on your text message, it just kind of goes away, and you're like, oh, I forgot to respond there.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, so it's good.
And when
I like
the
fact that the agent can say, hey, reminder, don't forget, this is still pending.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I know that with N8N, I could do some more sophisticated models that will probably create to-do lists. So I'm looking at something like that because I just want to not have to do like that redundancy, like you said. In the future, I could even have AI answer their questions using my data model. So imagine, it could superpower my PMs. And I think that's the confusion point for a lot of people. It's knowing that AI is here to augment jobs. AI is here to really create a better, more proficient workforce. And then eventually, who knows what could happen? Maybe they do get phased out. We don't know. But we do know that right now we're looking at a really amazing era where we can hyper perform. We can super perform in our jobs and at our businesses because of AI. And so I'm so excited because I would love for like more coaches, more recruiters. I mean, think about what AI can do in the recruiting world. I'm sure most of your clients are, interested in something like this. And with WhatSnap.ai, for pretty much what they spend on their coffee every month, that's, Starbucks or whatever, they can have an AI literally doing the recruiting for them. Maybe even like having
Part
them
of
fill,
it. It's part of it.
yeah, exactly. So,
there's a part of recruiting that you can definitely, there's some transactional stuff that
Yeah.
you can definitely automate. But there's always this, like, the best way to describe it is when you make a successful match as a recruiter and it's an unexpected match, it's a match where the candidate would never have applied for the job and the hiring manager would never have interviewed the candidate, but the hiring manager interviewed the candidate because of you. That AI can never replicate because that takes a whole nother level of understanding. However, I would like to have a lot more of those moments. And the reality is that I have a lot fewer of those moments because most of the time I'm doing the repetitive stuff that I have to do.
Yeah.
So if an AI can automate those repetitive things, there's 10 questions I have to ask every candidate that I have to ask.
Yeah.
I have to ask because if I don't ask one candidate and I make a hiring decision or my company makes a hiring decision and that one candidate didn't answer that one question, all the other candidates who got asked that question have a legitimate base to sue me based on discrimination because I didn't ask that one candidate the question.
That's
Think
crazy.
about
So
it.
literally this is a way to CYA also.
Yeah, I have to ask everybody that question.
Yeah.
And I have to document their answer. And that's dehumanizing for me because I'm asking the same 10 questions 200 times a day.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And the candidates are saying, oh my God, I have to answer these questions again?
Yeah.
Didn't I just answer these questions before?
Yeah.
So I would love to have an AI talking to an AI that gets these questions answered officially so that I can actually get to the other question, which is, so Dinah, what do you really want to do?
Yeah.
If you could write your own job description, what would that look like?
I love
That is what I want to get to instead of what's your target compensation range? And are you willing to relocate? And what cities would you relocate? I mean, it's the same garbage over and over and over again.
That's the beauty of AI. It could literally build out these profiles just through conversation and it feels super organic. And little do you know, it's building out a profile, asking questions and pulling that data in for a profile. I would love for us to close. I know we're at time. With one last question for you. And as a recruiter that's been in the game for decades now, you are like the king of recruiting and corporate
There's a lot
recruiting.
more experienced recruiters than me out there that have had,
you're the best that I know. And so I would love to know, what's a question that you ask when you're interviewing that has been the most revealing question as to someone is a good fit and good character for the job? Or just in general, good character. Like, what's a great question that you ask?
Yeah, that's a tough one because have you ever tried to legislate ethics or legislate beauty, like mandate it legally? It's really challenging to do. There are some things that you can do to judge whether or not someone has good character, but there are also a lot of really edgy ways to defeat that question. And so, people think that there's these easy ethics questions, and it really isn't. I think that the context where you ask that question has to change, but the nature of the question is, I think, what you're looking for.
Okay.
Right? So you're probably going to reframe the question in your environment or from one candidate to the next, but what you're testing for is the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, for example, if I was to ask a candidate, I'm gonna give you the answer, but I'm gonna ask it the question the way that more people usually do it.
Okay.
Which is not very well done. And then I'm gonna tell you what the right way to do it is. But one of the questions would be, for example, have you ever shared any of your work product from your previous employer, with your new employer? Right? So have you ever basically distributed any of the confidential material that you had bound to not distribute from your previous employer? So literally you're asking them, have you ever stolen from your employer?
Yeah,
Who
exactly.
is going to say yes? Right?
Yeah.
Right? So, but how do you ask that in a way where it doesn't come across as, I'm trying to catch you lying and being a cheating person? There's a better way to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the way that you ask that is to ask them to share an example of a presentation.
Wow.
Now, if they
That's,
don't do presentations, then share an example of a report. Share, it's like, show me an example of your
and what
work.
if they blur out the company name and they're like, what if it was something that they could share externally?
If they, well, you would know that they could share because you'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Is that something that you're allowed to share? That looks really
They're
confidential.
like, well, not
But,
really. This is top secret. And you delete,
right. And
delete.
so, yeah, hang up. So what you're looking for isn't that they don't have material, because when it comes to intellectual property, there's a really tricky line between, and I've walked that line myself,
Yeah.
having created intellectual property as an employee on
Yeah.
behalf of the company that hired me. So that's called work for hire.
Yeah.
That means that whatever idea I come up with belongs to my employer. But I have also been a consultant whose ideas came with me.
Yeah.
And I've solutioned those ideas to the client and come up with new ideas based on my examples.
Yeah.
So I have improved my ideas by
Yeah.
having the experience.
It's like the difference between an invention and an innovation. It's like you're
Exactly.
merging who you are with the new idea. So
That's
yeah, I
right.
agree. Yeah.
So if I took a PowerPoint, this is it might not be a PowerPoint, it might be a Word document, it might be, but this is what I'm trying to tell you. If I take a PowerPoint that was created by my employer for my employer, and I remove my employer's name from it, and I put my name on it, and I say that I wrote it, that's unethical.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
But if I say I'm basing this on my work that I did at my previous company, but I created a new version of it and a new idea, I didn't take the material with it, but it's in my mind, and I am adapting it and I'm using it in this other environment.
Yeah.
I can present some of those ideas
Yeah.
by giving credit to the originator, as long as I'm not stealing anything that's confidential or proprietary,
Yeah.
right? I can evolve and go, everything that I've learned in the past makes me who I am today, which is why you hired me for this new job.
Exactly.
So I have the knowledge, but I didn't
Yeah.
bring the PowerPoint with me.
Yeah.
I just brought the knowledge
In
with
my
me.
head, yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
The moment that you take the PowerPoint or the Word document and you delete the company name from it and put your name on it and say that you did it, that's stealing. So that's
Right,
what you're
right.
trying to catch.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Not whether or not they have any material, but whether or not they claim it.
That's great advice. And I love that you shared that with everyone here. Hopefully they got some good input from that.
But you have to change,
Yeah.
PowerPoint might be for salespeople.
Yeah.
Report, accounting. So
Yeah.
every industry is going to have their own version of what that work product is.
Agreed.
And you have to vary it. That's why there's not a single question.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask everybody, do you have any presentations you can share with me? Because a lot of people don't do presentations.
Agreed. One of the tricks I heard, and I've used this before in interviews, and I think it actually does work pretty well, to kind of just know what a person is really like. I read this a long time ago. It said, if you ask somebody like what their best friend would say about them in terms of their two best like qualities, they'll tell you basically what they admire most about themselves by saying those two things, right? Because it's what they genuinely think are the best. Or the other
Right.
kind of flip of that question is I ask them, what are the two things you admire most about your best friend? Because
That I
generally
like.
they are going to say the two things that they are matching up with that person. So I love to throw those two questions in to really get an idea for the character. And it's been pretty true. Like I asked somebody and they said loyalty and hardworking, and they're the most loyal and hardworking person I've ever hired. And so it's a pretty good one for the recruiters out there. I don't know if that's one that you ever throw
They'll
in
tell
there,
you what
but-
they value by telling you what they admire about the other person.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
you know what? It's always better to get, when it comes to these kinds of things, it's always better to get third-hand information.
Yeah.
Because first-hand information is unreliable.
True.
If you ask the candidate if they're a hard worker, they're going to say, of course I'm a hard worker.
yeah.
But if you ask the candidate's mom if they're a hard worker, you might get a different answer.
He's still on the couch sleeping. No.
Yeah, or if you ask so you want to go
Yeah.
kind of, check that they call that, it's not really necessarily ideally, it really is not the best practice, but they call it backdoor reference checking, where you
Yeah.
call, and it's not ethical because that person may not know that that their employee is looking for work.
Oh yeah, I have like literally a 7-figure company and my family doesn't have a clue what I do with my time. And people see like my social media, which like I only post like when I actually do have time to go out and I'm not working 15 hours days. They're like, oh, but you just travel the world and you don't work. And I'm like,
You vacation all the time.
if
You're
you
like,
understand, like my home is did traveling. I don't have your white picket fence. There's trade-offs
you're
for
like,
everything.
I work a full day, 6 days a week. And for me, a full day is 24 hours.
Yes, exactly.
So I work 6 days straight, and then I
Yes.
take 1 day to go on vacation.
Exactly. And there's been times I've literally been down the street from the ocean and like for a whole month straight, I won't even have a second to like go. And I'm like, just, it's cool though, because you know it's there when you do get the time, but like the digital lifestyle and the digital nomading does give that like impression that you're, I love my life. I love living a digital nomad life, but it obviously like people get the wrong impression, and just like any other thing on social media. So I'd imagine if someone ever called my references, only the people that are closest to me be like, yeah, that girl never takes a break. She doesn't eat all day and she works 15 hours a day. So I'm like, yeah, ask
and
that
everybody else
person.
would be like, I see her on Instagram all the time. She's on vacation drinking martinis everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, Shally, I can talk to you all day. Thank you so much for joining me and chatting about your app.
Great.
I can't wait to
Thank you.
launch it for you coming out this summer. And so I'm excited to get this underway. Ask Shally is going to be a prolific bookmark, I think benchmark in the coaching industry, because it's really going to showcase how people are able to now scale with their clients instead of feeling like they have to make a decision on their time and sell their time. So thank you again for trusting Digital Prodigy to build your amazing project. And Ask Shally will be in the App Store soon, guys. Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you so much.